And it turned out in the end that the real Fantastic Beast was man all along. Good stuff. Good stuff. Alright, so I just got back from Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grendelwald, and I want to help give you a primer if you're still on the fence about seeing it. No spoilers, hashtag protect the secrets, but I want to make sure that you're at least sort of familiar with the tone and the vibe and the general plot so that you kind of know what you're getting yourself into. Alright, first off, Johnny Depp is in this movie. He has made a very bold choice in deciding to play Grendelwald with a very high-pitched, perhaps even offensive German accent. The very first scene in the movie, these two prison guards are walking down the hall, and one turns to the other one, and they say, "We've lost 3 guards this week. He happens to be very persuasive. So we cut out his tongue." When they said this, my first thought was, oh, so he's not talking at all. He's going to be communicating entirely in, pantomime. Bold choice. That's not what happens. See, it turns out that the guy in the cell is one of Grindelwald's servants, and he's doing this really elaborate polyjuice potion, Ocean's 11 switch out, I guess. And the real Grindelwald looks at him and goes, "Danke, mein servant. Oh, yes." And you're like, what the hell, Johnny? But he does it for the whole movie. I guess Grindelwald is some kind of really passive-aggressive mom-type character, too. They're chasing down Ezra Miller at one point, and, Ezra gets away. He turns into that giant ball of goo and starts scattering around Paris, and Grindelwald's standing there watching Ezra Miller go into the distance, and he looks to his left, his henchman on his left, and he turns and he looks at his henchman on his right, and then he just goes, "Oh no, I guess Grindelwald's going to have to go after him. I guess this one's on me. Yeah, it's going to just be me chasing down this man forever with no help from anybody." And then the henchmen take off running. The people who made this movie are clearly big fans of Magic Mike XXL. There's references scattered throughout the entire film. You can see its influence in the lighting and the blocking and the elaborate striptease sequences. Everybody in this movie gets a striptease sequence. They're very long and very elaborate, and clearly a lot of money was spent on the choreography for these. It shows. There's jumping and turning and twisting. There's jetés, which I don't know how they worked them into this stripping, but my god, they're there. Grindelwald gets a striptease that's set to pony. He gets pony. Dumbledore gets one that's set to It's Raining Men. Newt Scamander gets one that's set to The Black Keys' Howlin' For You. Newt Scamander's striptease is the single most uncomfortable I've been in a movie ever. Jacob and Queenie get a duet striptease that is hands down the best one. Best part of the whole movie is Jacob and Queenie doing this duet, sort of like burlesque striptease bit set to Buck Cherry's Crazy Bitch. I can't remember any other details of this movie because that one scene is so good. I'm very happy that they decided to cut out the CGI recreation of Richard Harris's Dumbledore. That was a plan for a little while, but they ended up cutting it because I think they thought it would be offensive. You can still find it online. It's just a CGI recreation of Richard Harris, but he's playing the acoustic guitar naked. Professor McGonagall is in this movie, and I understand that's a little surprising to some people because apparently due to the official timeline, she shouldn't even be born by the time that this movie takes place. But for those people, I think you'll be happy to know that the movie goes out of its way to explain this. They take a 5-minute long diversion just to explain that Professor McGonagall, in the year 1962, had a bet with Dumbledore that she couldn't use the time turner to go back and kill young Grindelwald. So she took him up on it, went back in time, became a professor, got really, really hung up on teaching and forgot about her mission, and pretty much just aged into where she was by the time that the book started. Okay, this is the coolest part though. There's a brief flash where Emma Watson is in there. The Ministry is coming to Hogwarts to track down Dumbledore and question him about his past with Grendelwald. And while they're questioning him, there's this little flicker in the background of Emma Watson. She's just there for one, maybe 2 frames, and then she's just gone. But she unmistakably is wearing a time turner, so I don't know what's going on there, because it doesn't come up later in the movie. It must be a thing in Fantastic Beasts 3, where it turns out that she's going back in time now too, where she's on some mission. I don't know what it is, but I am unironically excited to find out what. A lot of this movie is actually devoted to understanding Newt Scamander's lineage and his family. Like, Newt Scamander's brother, Theseus, is in this movie. And they also introduce you to his half-sister, Carrie, who is American. Carrie is played by Carrie Henn, the actor who portrays Newt in Aliens. I guess that's kind of the joke. It's a really oblique joke to be making and does not serve the movie at all. She shows up and says, "Oh, well, you and your brother never get along, do you, Newt?" That's just played out with later, where you actually just see Newt and his brother not getting along. So, she really served no purpose. There's actually a lot of Aliens references, now that I think about it. Like, Newt Scamander has a xenomorph skull in his basement. So it's kind of like Predator 2 style, because no live xenomorph actually shows up in the movie, but they seem to take place in the same universe. Which I guess is probably set up for Fantastic Beasts 3. Or Fantastic Beasts to the Third. So, what's the main plot of this movie? It's about Grendelwald and the crimes he's committing. It's called Crimes, but really it should be singular. He commits essentially one really, really big crime. He is traveling around Western Europe to collect the pieces of this one big fantastic beast. Thousands of years ago, a fantastic beast was disassembled because he was too powerful. He was the only one of his kind, and his pieces were scattered around. Grendelwald, if he can find all 5 pieces and put them back together and resurrect this beast, then he can use that to take over the Muggle world. He will be killing 80% of the Muggles and leaving the rest as like a beasts of burden, he calls them. It's pretty clear that a lot of inspiration was taken from Avengers 3 for this, because most of this movie is about collecting the pieces of this monster, which are essentially Infinity Stones. Grindelwald already has the left hand. Then he has to go to New York to get the right hand. That's when he ends up running into Jacob and Queenie, injures them in this fight when they try to fight him off. That pulls Newt Scamander back into the fray because he hears about the injury and he's like, oh no, we've got to stop Grindelwald. They track him back down to London where he gets the left leg. Then he goes to Bulgaria where he gets the right leg. He gets it from Durmstrang. They stop by Durmstrang and we watch the boys do that little dance that they do in the fourth Harry Potter book, or movie. We watch them do that in the book too. Don't you guys have the book where you open it up and you watch the little video of them doing the dance? Then they have to go to Paris to get the head. And Grindelwald actually beats them every single time, so he has 4 out of 5 pieces by the time they get to Paris. All he needs now is the head. They track him down into the catacombs underneath Paris. And they end up in this big magic fight, shooting Expelliarmuses and Avada Kedavras left and right as they try to find the head of this monster that's been chained up for thousands of years. And then suddenly this green light shows at the end of the hallway. And a certain color comes to Grindelwald's eyes as he sees his goal is in sight. And he approaches it slowly. And he puts his hand out to touch it. And then the camera starts to zoom out. And you can see the head of this beast. It's sort of this ancient Egyptian looking face. No, they didn't. There's no way they did it. And then, oh my god, they did. It's Exodia, the Forbidden One. Grindelwald has assembled all 5 pieces of Exodia, and he's going to use it to level Paris. That was exciting, I think. They end up fighting it off with this giant cat that Newt Scamander found. But dang, that moment's pretty cool. And now it's time for my top 5 Fantastic Beasts that don't appear in this movie, but should appear in Fantastic Beasts 3. the giant mechanical spider from Wild Wild West. Audrey 2, voiced by Bruno Mars. Space Godzilla. But Godzilla doesn't exist in this universe, so everyone just questions why he has that name. A Graboid. Grover. The third one's going to be called The Fantastic Beast at the end of this movie. And every 5 minutes, Grover will pop up and say, no, don't keep watching. There's a fantastic beast at the end of this movie. And you just ignore him and keep watching it like the terrible friend that you are. The Giant Claw. Waluigi, the Balchinian from Men in Black 2. Coco, the gorilla that knows sign language. My Neighbor Totoro. Actually, come to think of it, My Neighbor Totoro takes place like 30 years after Fantastic Beasts. And I think the big Totoro is supposed to be like a couple 100 years old. So, I mean, conceivably, if the third movie takes them to Japan, they could just be the same Totoros. Just saying. I'm feeding you gold here. A. Tommyknocker. Spider Pig. Devastator. The Ice King. Garbodor. The Statue of Liberty, but it's alive. Those guys that can turn into animals in Fruits Basket. The Ghost of Christmas Present. Annabelle. Okay, I said that as a joke, but like legit, how cool would it be if the third movie is straight up a horror film? And finally, Bad Place Janet. Thank you. Slimer. Ernesto de la Cruz. Audrey Jr., the original Audrey 2 from the first Little Shop of Horrors movie. Jinzo! He'll disable all of Grendelwald's trap cards. Everybody from Toy Story. King K. Rool. Ridley. Squirtle. Maleficent, but in dragon form. Both King Koopa and Bowser. The shark from Jaws. Shere Khan. Mork. Gordon Shumway. Gordon Ramsay. Guy Fieri. Alton Brown. Forget about good eats. Fantastic eats. And how to make them. Lord Frieza. Pennywise, the dancing clown. Mr. No-Face. Scrooge McDuck. Satan. It's just straight up Satan. Surprise, kids. He's real and he fits in a suitcase.